70% of the Earth is covered with water. 2.5% of that water is fresh, and only 1/3 of that fresh water is available for human use. Right now, over 1 billion people have no access to water. 2.5 billion people have no sanitation, and 2 billion people have no energy. The world needs an environmentally responsible way to clean up waste and to provide clean water and energy to communities around the globe. Technology is now available to meet the challenges that we face today and is laying the groundwork for meeting the challenges that we are likely to face in future generations. Over the next few minutes, see how it provides an environmentally sensible solution to home heating and power generation. And this is just the beginning.
Back in the 70s, Stan Meyer set out single-handedly to solve America's energy problems. He decided to do it using water, the world's most abundant storehouse of hydrogen, which is a far more powerful fuel than oil. For 15 years, Meyer has been fighting to get his inventions taken seriously.
Most inventors have to be a loner. You have to be somewhat thick-skinned and don't rely on other people to support you, because they will not. More times than not, an invention is really stolen from the inventors. Even in my prior development of high technology, I've had patents taken from me. I learned from the School of Hard Knocks.
Meyer has always stood out against the crowd. He has no formal qualifications as a scientist because he didn't wait to graduate from high school, leaving early to go straight into research at the high-powered Battelle Institute in his native Ohio. Now he works full-time as a private inventor. He's built a device with potentially revolutionary. There's nothing startling about a machine that can extract the hydrogen from water. What is highly unusual is that it should do so with ordinary tap water. The conventional method is called electrolysis. Meyer has turned that process. His device doesn't use up large amounts of electric current, nor does it produce an enormous amount of waste heat. For 20 years, he has produced vast amounts of hydrogen on demand. He's unwilling to let us point a camera at that. This is the simple device he used to convince a reluctant patent office that his revolutionary concept actually works. Alloy rods, acting as electrodes, are housed in a perspex container that is fed in through a transformer. But critically, there is virtually no current. The result is dramatic. Hydrogen pours off with the flick of a switch. Meyer claims the key is his electronics, which pulses electricity cycles per second. In a way that's not readily apparent, this process transforms the equation. Whereas in conventional electrolysis, 3 times as much energy is consumed as is produced in the form of hydrogen fuel, in Meyer's apparatus, the reverse is to produce several 100% more energy than it consumes.
Stan has something that sounds like they've done something to tap zero-point energy. Has high frequency, high voltage, and there's a combination of the two at which something occurs. With Chernetsky in Russia, it was what he called a self-sustaining discharge. When Stan gets this effect, the amount of hydrogen and oxygen that are emitted off these 2 electrodes is a step function. I did this with, it almost boils the blood. Standard electrochemicals, I need current, and the water should rise a degree every couple of seconds. With Stan's, it'll run for a half hour, and the water temperature hasn't changed.
Meyer demonstrates this repeatedly without any difficulty, and yet on the face of it, it represents an extraordinary revolution. 1,700% greater efficiency than conventional electrolysis. And if he's to be believed, he's getting much better results from his latest, still secret invention.
Well, I first got involved with Stan Meyer when I went over there with a couple of colleagues to look at it. He arrived at Stanley Mayer. He had a demonstration cell. He filled it with tap water. In fact, I did that myself. And he switched it on, and almost instantly the 3 jaws dropped because of the rate at which the gas...
Whatever energy source Stan Meyer had tapped, it was not explicable by the electric. Something was powering it outside of...
There is no question that the gas coming off in such abundance is hydrogen. Meyer ignites it to produce a high-temperature flame able to cut through metal.
Stanley Mayer has faced a lot of difficulties. He's 3 times tried to launch the device. produced press conferences, had the technical press round, but he's been almost universal idea. He's getting a little more notice now because some scientists are getting interested. But by and large, science is very intolerant.
As with Tesla, Griggs and others, Maher's claims are so far outside the majority of the scientific establishment. But then, Maher has ignored them too, into establishing recognition for his claims by getting international patents.
In the processing, there was a great deal of difficulty in trying to process the legal paperwork in such a way as to allow the patent office to fully understand what was actually occurring. In one instant, we brought the water. Of course, I had tweaked it in such a way to produce an enormous amount of hydrogen oxygen gas, and the patent examiner said, no, it will not work. And when we turned it on and produced an enormous amount of hydrogen gas, the examiner finally realized that we were doing exactly that, and went out in the hallway and started screaming and hollering to everybody on the floor, put out all your cigarettes, hydrogen's in the building. So we started laughing and said, well, we certainly convinced everybody in the patent office that we can do what we said.
Even so, the US Patent Office dragged their feet for 3 years before granting patents on the hydrogen-producing device. Since then, against massive resistance, he's managed to get patents established throughout Europe and Japan. But the hydrogen machine was only the first step towards Maher's ultimate dream. If he gets it right, this application of his technology would change the 21st century in the same way that the Wright brothers and Carl Benz transformed the 20th. He is currently modifying a beach buggy to run on a petrol tank or even a hydrogen container. It has just a tank of water. He's invented a device called a water splitter to replace the spark plug. As the water is injected into hydrogen and oxygen and then burned as fuel. Maher is working on a kit to modify any engine. 12 months. He hopes to demonstrate it on it.
And, of course, the blessing to the use of the water as a fuel source, that on combustion, the byproduct is water mist. So we're even solving the environmental pollution problem at the same time that we're using water to maintain the industrial basis of the world.
Maher is protective about his inventions. Most observers describe him as a crank, and his car as an aberration. But then madness and genius often go hand in hand. Maher shares with many inventors a problem that goes well beyond paranoia. As an engineer with no scientific background, he faces a giant hurdle when he tries to communicate.
One problem is that the language that people use when they're trying to describe their inventions is not the language that I as a scientist am used to. So I have to translate it, if you like, into a way that I can begin to understand what they're trying to say, the sense it initially makes. And so I'm not particularly inspired to put a lot more effort in the hope that the pearl of wisdom will reveal the law of diminishing returns.
It isn't just a question of the difficulties of communication. There is a profound barrier between scientists and inventors, and a strong reluctance on the part of most scientists that don't have a clear scientific pedigree.
Reluctance to look foolish inhibits a lot of people from looking at things.
Turn the machine on. Denny Klein fires up his hot new invention. His machine emits a flame that feels only slightly warm to the touch. But watch what happens when he touches anything else.
Instantaneously, I can burn a hole right down through the center of that brick.
In the surface of the sun. Heat so intense it takes only seconds to literally burn a hole through charcoal. 3 seconds turns a brass ball to glowing liquid metal. Tungsten lights up like a sparkler. Steel, lead, and other metals slices on contact. Yet the tip of the welder stays cool to the touch.
No other gas will do this.
Denny Klein uses an alternative fuel source once thought impossible. He says people still have trouble believing him when he reveals...
Take water and electricity, and we break it down through our very unique electrolysis process.
Klein has just patented his process of converting H2O to HHO, producing a gas that combines the atomic power of hydrogen with the chemical stability of water.
It turns right back to water. You can see the water running off of this.
Klein originally designed his water-burning engine for cutting metal. He thought his invention would replace volatile acetylene in welding factories. Then one day, as he drove to his laboratory in Clearwater, he thought of another way to burn his HHO gas.
On a 100-mile trip, we use about 4 ounces of it.
Klein says his prototype 1994 Ford Escort can travel exclusively on water. though he currently has it rigged to run as a water and gasoline hybrid.
Simply speaking, it can change the world by reducing our dependence on fossil fuels.
These are equivalent to our...
Pete Dominici is helping Klein take his hydrogen technology patents from a two-room office in Clearwater to consumer markets around the world.
You know what? Microsoft came out of nowhere, came out of the garage. Why not hydrogen technologies?
The duo is already in negotiations